facilitating the rest of the day along with Zach. Thank you so much.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Diane and Jack, for inviting me to be able to organize this day. I'm humbled, and I just so appreciate the stories that you're going to hear today. So a leader is defined as any person, I need my glasses, any person who leads or commands a group, organization, or a country. And I am here to share with you some of our best leaders in the Southeast. We have so many individuals that share their stories on a regular basis through NEO, through training. This day will really highlight some of the leaders. Zach, would you like to say hello?
Hello, everybody. I am Zach.
And you're going to be our?
I'm going to be the MC
of
today's panel.
So I'm going to just say a quick word about Jonathan. Zach will introduce, and he'll share a little more about himself at the next session. So Jonathan Gardner, he is here with us today, and he is a clear leader in the human service field. Jonathan has spoken in many venues. It puts me to shame for sure. He's a decision maker, a self-advocate, a homeschool graduate because public school did not work, and you'll hear more about that. He's a cancer survivor, and he happens to have autism. He's a very proud council member of the Massachusetts Developmental Disability Council and an official ambassador for Operation House Call through the ARC of Mass, which allows doctors to be able to get in and work with families with autism. He's an official ambassador for Operation House Call, as I said, a Flutie Fellow and a Doug Flutie Jr. Foundation for Autism, and a co-chair for the Mass Supported Decision Making Council. Jonathan is really exceptional and a leader, and I hope that as you hear the stories today, you will think about these folks as your leaders and really who you need to lean on to glean what you need to do to be able to be better leaders in the field. So Zach, if you'd like to introduce Jonathan.
Hello, I'm Zach. I would like to introduce Jonathan. Oh.
One, two, three. Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Jonathan Gardner, and as has already been previously mentioned, I'm a 20-year-old decision maker, self-advocate, homeschool graduate, and cancer survivor. Oh yeah, the autism as well. Oh, excuse me, what?
Flip your slide.
Oh, thanks for the reminder. Trust me, this. My main goal is to make you all laugh, besides the teaching. Let's see. I'm an official ambassador for the for Operation House Call through the ARC of Massachusetts, a Flutie Fellow, and a member of the Massachusetts Developmental Disability Council. A few fun facts about me are: I enjoy video games, anime, pro wrestling, and helping others any way I can. Let me tell you about my journey so far. I was born on November 24th, 2002. My mom advocated for me to get services at a very young age through early intervention. I made a lot of gains through my time with early intervention, and they were the ones that helped to guide my parents to go see a developmental doctor, and that is when I was diagnosed with autism. I have no idea what happened to me. After early intervention, I went to public school. I began going to school on the day I turned 3. I went to public school, preschool, double school, followed by full-day kindergarten with a one-to-one aide that followed and supported me throughout my day. Oh yeah, this happened with me. Second grade was very hard for me. During second grade in public school, the supports that were put in place for me were not followed. A very long story short, I became self-injurious. An example of how my supports were not being followed was I had an accommodation in my IEP of wearing a baseball hat or a knit hat. I needed the hat because at the time it made my head feel in place. Give me a second to see. I've lost track of that was. Excuse me, people. found it funny to flick off my hat many times. Because of my communication disability, I could not say to her, "Please do not do that, I need that to feel safe to learn." My mom did advocate daily for me, but it just kept on happening. And the more it happened, the more self-interest I became. Long story short, I became so self-interest at school one day that I tried to jump out the window. The school called my mom and dad, and I was taken to the emergency room. I never went back to that elementary school. My mom and dad advocated for me to go to a new school, and I did, for about 9 days. I attended a private where, again, my IEP was not being followed, and long story short, I became more self-interest because the teacher not only mentally abused me, but physically abused me as well. My mom walked in on the teacher abusing me, and that was my very last day in public school as a student. My mom was the one once told by an educator, "Jonathan has missed the opportunity to read if the child didn't read by 3rd grade. They will not, he is going to end up living in a loft apartment eating a bologna sandwich." My mom had the best response. She said, "First off, you're wrong. Second off, he doesn't even like bologna." Believe it or not, that actually did happen. I'm not joking. I'm not trying to make this funny or anything like that. That actually did. To think though, at 8 years old, grown-ups have already given up on me. My mom and dad could not believe it, and they made sure that this would not be my future. My family believed I deserved better, and they were going to make sure that I would live my best life. After my abuse, my mom helped me, my brother, and my father with the trauma that those so-called teachers left on all of us. My mom was always my safe person, but now she was truly my safe person. My mom gave me the tools I needed to build back my confidence and navigate life's challenges. She helped me to understand how my thoughts and emotions affected my behaviors by using cognitive behavior therapy through a therapist that used to come out to my house. Because I did not feel safe leaving my home except to go to Bridgewater State University for speech and language and the Children's Physical Developmental Clinic for swim, and my grandparents' house for a long time. During the same time, my mom found a lawyer to see if we could do anything. We found one. The lawyer told her that unfortunately we were short by 2 days by the statutes of limitations to sue the school. The lawyer, who is now my friend, offered us something that we didn't even know was the better option for us at the time. Well, for us now, I should say. We began working with the Disability Law Center to get the Massachusetts Restraints and Seclusion Law passed. This is where I shared my story for the very first time. It took a few years to get the law passed. Passing this law gave my mom and I both so much peace to know my journey happened for a reason, and more kids would be protected and feel safe to go to school and get the education they deserve. Before I move on, this is actually a quote that he said that is with Glassman next to me. "The world only gets better when we all work together." That is words that I still take to heart to this day. I'm so thankful that I ended up with the very best teacher of all, my mom. Hey, you're finally getting applause. I finally did it. She homeschooled me, and it was amazing for me. My mom taught me by letting me be the guide. We would not move on to new material until I mastered what I was learning. My mom used a lot of my interests in teaching me. I remember when I was really into superheroes, my mom did Batman science to teach me the ways that Batman's gears and gadgets connected to reality. That was a mouthful. And she taught me about the sight behind Superman's strength, speed, sight, and flight. And no, that wasn't intentionally being rhyming, that's actually how it's written out. These are just a few of the ways my mom would take my interests and relate them to real life. And this is how I learned best. This made me know that my learning was important to my mom and that she cared about me. During my homeschool years, our day always began with a positive mindset growth. We were able to make school supported with everything I needed. I truly believe that one of the issues I had with public school was that the people that worked with me wanted to push me forward too soon, even when my body and mind were not ready to move. I needed to go at my own pace, which did not mean I was lazy or fresh or did not want to learn. It was the complete opposite. I'm always eager and willing to learn as long as it's at my own pace. One of the reasons that I was self-injurious was that I would never want to hurt anyone, but I could not use my words to communicate what was going on. So it became self-interest to try and let people know I did not feel safe. When I turned 13, my mom helped me to create a vision using Charting the Life course framework. There are so many great tools in the Charting for Life course. These tools can help anyone who is planning, problem solving, or working on a goal. You can use them to express your hopes, dreams, and vision to live your best life, as well as think about and plan for supports you will need to get there. I have had many visions for myself at different stages in my life. Once my vision was to become a professional wrestler. Another year my vision was to learn to speak Japanese, which I do know a little bit, but not that much. I know konnichiwa and that's it. But my vision at 13, has become my default vision by now. And it was simple, to help people any way I can. My vision has evolved, but it's still the same as it is today. The way I've gone about it, well, give a second, sorry, I'm just jumping ahead. I began fulfilling this vision by going volunteering at soup kitchens with my mentor, Brendan, at the time. My therapist, Mrs. Clifford, who always believed in me, asked me to mentor a young boy at the school in my town who had school refusal. This was such a rewarding experience for me. From there, I became a skills trainer for the ARC of Greater Brockton myself for 2 young kids who happened to have autism. Still debating if I looked better with bald. Now it's time to get depressing. In 2021, I was diagnosed with a rare form of cancer called Ewing sarcoma. The day I found out about my diagnosis, I was trying to start a video game called Valkyria Chronicles. Great game, by the way. For some reason, though, I felt something was stopping me and I shouldn't be playing. So, I stopped. I decided to go upstairs and check on my safe person, my mom, and ask her a couple of questions. I had a feeling coming over me as I was going up the stairs. Then I heard my mom crying. I listened in to my mom, who was in my dad's office. I thought the only thing to do was to open the door and ask what was going on. After a small amount of prodding, I was able to get the truth. My mom told me I had cancer. I thought it was a joke or a mistake because it was near April Fool's Day. After processing that it was not a joke or a mistake, I thought, how are we going to explain this to everyone I know? My mom told me I had Ewing sarcoma. From what I learned, this is a very rare cancer. I went through a lot to get my diagnosis. On April 19th, 2021, I began my chemotherapy treatments. I had no idea what to expect. My chemo treatments consisted of 14 cycles of chemotherapy and 31 days of radiation. This was very challenging for me. It was one of the most challenging times of my life. In preparation, my dad came up with the idea to get a new Cookie Monster for me to take to the hospital. My mom was able to talk to the hospital staffs and somehow get a real port to place inside my Cookie Monster so I could feel what the port would feel like inside my body. Knowing what the port was going to feel like and what it was going to do, was going to relieve a lot of anxiety for me. Because of my cancer tumor, I will now have lifelong mobility issues. As long as I can find joy in every day, even if it's just playing a new video game or watching some anime, I'm ready to accept my new normal. And yes, that is the Cookie Monster. One of my favorite things about my doctors and nurses is they took the time to get to know me as a person, and I got to know them as people too. I knew that no matter what would come my way, I had full trust in my doctors and nurses, and always will. They've become like family to me. I enjoy going to see them every 12 weeks when I have to get rescans. When I have to get rescanned to catch up because I love them like family, honestly. It was during my cancer treatments that I was asked to help pass the support decision-making bill and help make it law. This gave me such a purpose when I needed one the most. It was from my advocacy with this bill that I was asked to sit on the Massachusetts Developmental Disability Council. At the council, I got to share my voice and advocate at a state level to make positive changes for myself and others to live their best lives. Support decision, let me tell you a little bit about support decision. A lot of people like me have a guardian. I don't. Instead, I use something called support decision making. Support decision making is an alternative to guardianship, where the person picks a group of people they trust to help them make decisions. I am the decision maker in my life. I have used support decision making in my fight against cancer, my mental health, and in most aspects of my life today. I am very hopeful to have this bill become law this year. This is my current support team, as you can see right there. I'll leave it up for a second. Wait a second, this passed. Let me explain how I got here. When I was 16 and in school, my mother and I were told that I needed full guardianship. This didn't feel right for us. My mom had learned about support decision making, and we decided to try it in my life. To me, support decision making is just another tool in the toolbox that I have. Support decision making was a great alternative for me. I started by choosing my supporters. I decided on different people who would help me with different parts of my life. My first support decision making plan only included my mom, dad, brother, and mentor, and my therapist. But as I have grown older, my plan has evolved, and I have added many other supporters to my team in different areas of my life. Because of support decision making lets me keep my rights, I can change my plan as my needs and life change over time. I am the one in control of my life, not a judge or a guardian. No offense to any of those that are out there today. Like I mentioned before, in Ewing sarcoma, but like I mentioned before, in 2021, I was diagnosed with Ewing sarcoma, which is a very rare form of cancer. This was during the height of COVID-19, lucky me. I was already using support decision making in my life, so it gave me some comfort to know I would have support going through this new journey. However, COVID-19 visitor restrictions made using support decision making harder. We had to advocate with the hospital to have my supporters with me at my appointments. My hope is that when the bill becomes law, hospitals will be required to respect support decision making as a way of accommodating people with disabilities. It will then be recognized as a right and choice everywhere. Fighting cancer has been one of the hardest journeys of my life. I have been through a lot of hard journeys already. I am so thankful I was given the freedom to choose how I go about my treatments. Having been able to use support decision making during my cancer journey was really life-saving for me and helped me make my own decisions while battling cancer. I would not be the person I am here today without support decision making. For example, When I was 6 months into chemotherapy and 2 weeks into radiation, I came home one day and my body and mind were feeling horrible and hopeless. I ended up in my bedroom crying and just really wanting to give up. I told my mom, I do not care what happens to me. I don't care what happens to me. I just want it to stop, even if the tumor causes me to die. My mom had to take time to process this all herself. But when she came back into my room, she came back not as my mom, but as my support person. She said to me, Jonathan, I do not know what the answer to this all is, but if you can put your faith in me as your support person, I'm going to try my hardest to help you figure this out. From there, I gave my mom the okay to contact my medical team, and together they all came up with a different plan for me to think about. After the meeting, I was able to talk to my supporters about the plan, get my questions answered, and then I agreed to move forward with it. The plan ultimately saved my life, while also taking care of my mental health at the same time, thanks to support decision making. Support decision making truly makes me feel involved with my life. It provided me with choices about when and how I was going to receive my cancer treatments. Because of support decision making, I was able to let my body and voice guide me with the help of supporters. I did not have many choices when it came to having cancer, but at least I could control when and how I got through it. Full guardianship would have been worse than death to me. I would have lost my choice. If I was not able to pick my support people during my cancer treatments, I would just be a shell of myself now, if I even survived. I am the type of person that needs to have full trust in the people that are in my life. If someone else picked those people for me, I would not fully be able to be the person I am here today. I need to make choices for my own life. If a guardian had forced me into treatments, I would have been severely depressed, damaged, and not the person I am here today. Support decision making offers more options in my life. Support decision making is not for everyone, but I'm glad I had the choice to use it for myself. Everyone should have the right to choose the way they want to live, so they can live their best lives to the fullest. The more choices, the better is something I think we can all agree on, disability or not disabled, excuse me. During my advocacy for support decision making, I met my current boss, Laura Sullivan, who has helped me to evolve my vision even more by teaching medical students about people with disabilities so that everyone gets the health care they deserve, to live their best lives. I am a very proud ambassador for Operation House Call. With the ambassadorship position for Operation House Call, I am able to be a mentor to other self-advocates with autism and or intellectual disabilities. This is so important to me to help others have their voices heard to make a difference. Advocacy gave me hope and purpose while I was battling cancer. Having my voice heard and respected is so impactful and helps me to fulfill my vision of helping others any way I can. I am looking forward to continuing to co-teach and mentor others so that everyone gets the health care they deserve. This is one of the stories I shared with medical students so that they can learn from my experience. It all started when my leg was hurting me and my mom would bring me to doctors to figure out what was going on. We had to go to a lot of doctors because no one believed I was actually in pain. One of the doctors actually told my mom to bring me to a psychiatrist because they thought the pain was in my head and not real. I just wish I had said to this doctor, show me I'm crazy, don't just say it. Long story short, it was not until we found a doctor who looked me right in the eye and told me that she had no idea what was going on, but was going to find out. And as you can see in this picture on the right, that was my foot. You can clearly see one is clearly bigger than the other. They still dismissed me. And yes, that red one and the discolored one did hurt a lot. plan was to get an MRI done. Another long story short, it took a total of 3 MRIs because the people doing the MRIs kept saying, it must be the loud noise, and that is why you can't sit still for the test. When I kept telling them it was my pain, it was my back that was painful, they kept dismissing it. I finally just said, just knock me out for the test. And then that is when I was diagnosed with Ewing sarcoma. It all started when my leg was hurting me, and my mom would bring me to doctors to figure out what was going on. We had to go to a lot of doctors because no one believed I was actually in pain. One of the doctors actually told my mom to bring me
Jonathan, I think there must be a repeat. Switch the page.
Yeah, I was about to say, is this a repeat?
Yeah.
Did I just say this? I feel like I'm doing deja vu here.
Sorry, sweetie.
Sorry about that, people. Back to your daily schedule program. Next, I met my medical team with my mom and dad. That was interesting because my mom had to convince everyone at MGH that she and my dad were not just my parents, but my support people, and that information was going to be given to me in different ways so that I could process the information better. Once I told my mom once I was able to convince them, convinced them, we had the best relationship moving forward. My current team of doctors have become like family to me. They tell me that they are thankful to me for teaching them so many life lessons that make them better doctors and nurses. They saved my life and have always respected and valued my voice no matter how it was delivered. I actually would have been diagnosed not 1, not 2, not 3, but 5 months earlier if my voice was listened to. There was just too much focus on the fact that I was autistic over being a person in pain. I feel so strong that when a person that may happen to have a disability comes into the hospital and may present you with a so-called behavior, that everyone needs to understand that people have behaviors because they are trying to communicate something. I tell the medical students to please think about how they are going to communicate with their patients so that they can get the best possible care. I truly believe as human beings we are all different, whether you have a disability or not, and your voice matters. Everyone deserves to have the medical care they need. I'm the type of a guy that has learned from a very young age how to turn a traumatic event into a positive difference. I truly believe as human beings, we are all different, whether we have a disability or not, and our voices matter. I feel like I have found one of my callings with advocacy. I am passionate about using my own experiences to make sure others get the supports they need. I am so thankful every day that I get to live and share my voice. Life is such a gift to me. It should be for all of us. Knowing I can make a difference for others to live their best life is what I love to do. I was lucky because I had my mom, my dad, my brother who continued to support me. I guess I just want to give some of that back to others who may not have as much support as I did. My plans for the future are to continue to live each day, be positive, and make others happy. I feel like things happen for a reason. Thank you. You can see there, that's where the support decision-making stuff is, and I'll flip to my contact information when I get back.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Sorry about the sweat. That's okay.
Thank you, Jonathan. That story was really, really inspiring and motivating. So thank you very much. I really enjoyed that story, presentation.
You're welcome.
Any questions, everybody? Oh.
Give them a minute. Questions, comments, feedback?
Questions,
Jonathan?
comments?
Don't be shy. I'm as shy. Oh, yes, President.
Hi, I'm David. I just want to thank you for that. I really appreciate it. The supportive decision making is very, it's really new to me. I've never heard of it before, and I appreciate you bringing that to you.
Well, you're welcome. The state rep if you wanna help out with the bill. More voices matter. It might not seem like it, but the smallest thing can make the biggest difference.
Can you actually go back to the links? Thank you.
Yes.
Hi, Jonathan, I'm Jack. You said toward the end there that supported decision is not, decision-making is not for everybody, so what are your views about, for whom would it be most appropriate? If there are other people that wouldn't be as appropriate, and how would you discern that? How would you differentiate?
That would depend, and as my mom's coming up, she's coming to help answer this. But might as well get a supporter's point of view of this as well.
Sure.
If you want my opinion of this,
Yeah.
it depends on the person and the comfort level for them. Like, I wouldn't say there's like one big group of saying like, only these people can use supported decision making. It's more like an open-ended thing that you can try it, and if it doesn't work out, you can just switch to guardianship or something like that, or like a limited thing, or really whatever. I think that's answers that.
It's the least restrictive form of guardianship, I guess, if you wanna say that.
Put in guardianship in there.
Yeah, and it's not for everyone, because there is a need for full guardianship, and that's something a family needs to think about and decide. For Jonathan, we knew when he was 16 and we were presented from the school with, you know, I had said to them, all right, he's turning 16, I want to know what the options are for, you know, turning 18 and after, and guardianship, and, you know, their response was, he's on medication, you need to get full guardianship. And I just couldn't believe that was the only choice, because as you see, he advocates for himself and has his decisions, and I did not want his rights taken away that I felt he could make. And we always worked as a team in our family, and so we did research in it. Interesting enough, we were asked yesterday, he was speaking, what would I have done if there was no supported decision making? And I said we would not have chosen guardianship. We would have just gone about our lives, and we practiced this stuff. You know, like he said, we used the Charting for Life when he was 13, we started that. And so we would have gone about our business in the same manner. It does make a huge difference to have these documents when you're going into the hospital or some sort of place that you need documents to have the support that he was looking for at that time. Up until he got sick, we were using supported decision making, but it wasn't until he got sick that we really put it to the test.
It wasn't like we decided one day, oh, we should do this instead of that because it was harder. No, it was more like it was always something that was put in place, and we already knew how we were going to use it, basically.
You know, and for leadership students, you know, a word that you've heard maybe every time we've gotten together, certainly in Tom Duty's class, was customized. Right? And so I think supported decision-making is based on that idea that, as you were saying, Jonathan, everybody's different levels of competence as well as different in other ways. So customizing for the purpose.
Yeah, individualizing, almost like the IEPs, individualize. This was what was best for Jonathan.
I had a question, or something to say. So I totally agree with all this, because I like to advocate for myself too, you know what I mean? Like, same as Jonathan, I like to advocate, so, like stuff like this, you know? Yeah. Thank you.
Yes.
Does your support group, how's the decision-making for that? And once they were determined, is it fluid as far as they can come and go as needed for your decision-making, or is there like a time limit that they would be entrusted with?
It's really like the time and go flow if you want between the two.
So let me just help you process this. So explain to them who picks your support people.
Me.
Jonathan does. I do not.
Oh, do you mind if I?
Nope.
It's basically like a company. I always like to use this example whenever I'm talking about support decision making. So think of it like I'm the CEO or the chairman or whatever the head position is of the thing, but my supporters are like my employees that will come to me with ideas. Some ideas can be turned down, and some ideas will be turned up.
So you could hire
With quotation
different,
marks, heavily.
you could have different people who come and go out of that company
Yes.
based upon the needs that you may be experiencing right then and there that
Yes.
you need.
And his needs evolve. Like he said, when he first began, it was really just, maybe a family. But as he's gotten older, it has evolved with the needs he needs. He's very well aware of the supports he needs, and who he feels best suits him for that. So I think it's, and he's had people come and go. People have come to him and said, I'm sad to say this, but right now in my life, I don't feel I can support you anymore because I have A, B, and C going on, but we still want to remain friends or in contact, and that's just normal evolvement of things. And Jonathan has evolved some of his support people from like maybe covering one thing to overlapping into another thing as time has come. And I have to say, like, as a mom and being his main support person for now, because he chooses that. But as a mom, and I know my husband feels the same way, we worry about what will happen when we're not here. And over time, as his plan has evolved, it gives me peace of mind knowing that he's opened up his trust walls to other individuals that are there for the main reason to support him. And he knows if someone wasn't, he could kick me off his team if he wanted, I'd still be his mom, but he could kick me off his support team and not choose to bring his questions to me or whatever it may be. So I think it just gives us peace. And I was also telling the story yesterday that about a month ago, my older son, who's Jonathan's brother and his support person, he was over the house and the boys were talking and I was in the kitchen, and he said to Jonathan, I've been wanting to ask you, I think I know the answer to this, but I want to ask you, where do you want to live when mom and dad died? And I'm like, oh gosh, why are we having this conversation, right? And Jonathan said, no offense, Eric, but I don't want to live with you. And I'm thinking to myself, what? That's not the answer I'm looking for. Because we had always, in our family, it was known, God forbid something happened, Eric is older than him, he lives on his own, he would be, and it's one of that would be the next big trusted person for Jonathan, that's who Jonathan would go with. And Eric said to me, which again surprised me, I thought you were gonna say that, and that's why I wanted to ask you. And so I wanna know, where would you like to live then? Would you like to live alone? Would you like to live with someone? Would you like to live close to me in walking distance because he knows he doesn't drive? Would you like to live in driving distance where I can get there? They were having this wonderful open-ended conversation, which again brings me peace in my heart because I know, God forbid something was to happen today, they would figure this out.
I love how you put it as you're the CEO of a company and you do have that power to interview people that you're comfortable with to help you make the decision that you need. I think that's pretty powerful.
Yeah. And also have the power to veto anything as I want in my way.
As you should, I think.
Yeah.
And as one of his support people, if he decides to make a decision that I didn't think was a good decision, my role is still to support him.
Yeah, like, say for example, I make a big purchase and it came back completely destroyed. Like, I don't know, for some reason I ordered a couch and I only got one piece of the couch, like the limb bar thing. That'd be a different type of story, but my mom would have to support me through that and help me figure out what to do next, basically. And she would give me the options, I would figure out what.
Not berate him like, well, listen to me, you know? It's, you know, and I think, Jonathan, you said yesterday, you and I, remember you said, you know, making those mistakes is what's helping me learn.
Because here's the thing, failure is always the greatest teacher. Yeah, no matter what age you are, failure is the best teacher. You could be a preschool kid to the highest honored student in I don't know, Harvard or something like that. You could be some of the smartest people to the dumbest people. No matter what, failure is always the greatest teacher. Anyone else?
I'm just curious, is it legally recognized in the medical field yet, or do you need to pass the bill
No, this
first?
is one of the reasons we really want the bill to pass, and we're very hopeful it will pass. It is not legalized. When we went into the hospital, we got a lot of pushback. I felt privileged that, like Jonathan said, we're very good friends with the disability law center, so I was happy to have them on speed dial, and they said, just call me when you walk in there. And so I'm privileged that I could do that. Many other people aren't. And during the height of COVID, we would have been turned away, you know? And so thankfully, we were able to make it work. His doctor took a huge leap of faith when we first met him, and we had made the plan that, because we always make plans when we do anything different, like, what's our plan gonna be? Jonathan said, I don't wanna listen to anything he has to say.
Because that was the closest thing I
He was nervous, he was scared. I'm gonna sit in the waiting room, play my games, and you and Dad go get all the information and let me know what they tell me. So the doctor was like, oh no, we can't do that, he's 18, right? And I'm like, sorry, I don't know. He was already like, my husband's already wheeling him out of the room, like, I'm like, no, he's gone.
I was in a wheelchair at the time.
And we just have to make this work for him. And he was like, okay, so, you know, then the doctor and I made a plan of, I'm gonna write everything down that he was saying to the best of my ability. And we would bring Jonathan back in and explain it together just to make sure, and there was a lot that I didn't understand myself. So, and just, you know, HIPAA, I wasn't thinking the doctor's legalities, it's HIPAA, there's all these things. And so I'm so thankful that they took that leap of faith at the very beginning with us. I mean, as time went on, they saw that we were all in it for Jonathan's best health and to help him. So, and even to today, they're so supportive. So supportive.
Thank you so much, Nancy and Jonathan. I just want to say to you guys and to this group that you're just a story of love, really. Like when Jonathan is telling his story, he is a story of a very well-loved man. And I've always believed that when people believe in you, when you're surrounded by people that love you, when you're empowered to make choices and to be the director of your own life and to be able to advocate for others and help others and have that sense of belonging, you will blossom, and you certainly have. And I'm sure that you have planted a lot of seeds today, Jonathan, that are gonna blossom. And over time, you're gonna see the impact that you have on people one day at a time. So thank you so much. If anybody wants to get in touch with Jonathan, if you just wanna Scroll to the next page, his contact is there. Him and Mom are open for public speaking, to be able to come to your agency. I already have a couple of ideas to share with you of where else you might be able to have an impact. But thank you so much for your story, it was really impactful. And a special thank you to Mom as well. You've always believed in him from the beginning, and it's just amazing the teachable moments that she had with you and was able to get at your level to where you needed to come to the table and learn. And I think as leaders, we need to look at the people that we're supporting and how do we come to the table with them? How do we get to their level and bring them to the table and help them to learn? And then we continue to blossom from there. So both of you, thank you so much for today. We're taking a short break. We're going to set up for the next group of speakers, so you have until 10:15 this morning.
That was awesome. You should be so proud.